Where God is seated on the throne, a lot of believers, what they think of first is judgment. But God's throne is first full of grace. The matter of judgment is when you have rejected grace that judgment begins to come. But the first thing you encounter when you come in contact with God, when he's seated. Anyone that has access to a king, go and check the Bible. He stretches his rod towards you and tells you to take to half of his kingdom. You didn't work for it. He will stretch the rod. It's called the rod of grace. When Isaiah came in contact with the king on the throne, he encountered grace. And the first thing the Bible did to him was that he made him see God as a king. At times that your knowledge of God affects the things that you can do for God. There are certain things you cannot attempt until you know the God that is backing you. Then second thing that happened, that when he got to that throne, the Bible said his eyes were open. He started seeing angels. Prayer is your access. And I'm going to say something very quickly. Hebrews chapter 9 verse 3 to 8. The Hebrew writer began to show us the makeup of where God is, because God gave Moses a template showing him how things are done in the heavens. He gave him an outer court, the inner place, and then the holy of holies. And after the second veil, the tabernacle, which is called what? The holiest of all. The next verse. The holiest of all. What do you find there? Which had the golden censer. And you know what censers are? They are the prayers of the saints. That's where prayers are received. It has the golden censer. It had the ark of the covenant, the promises of God backed by an oath. There are promises of God that is backed by an oath, is in that holy of holies, overlaid round about with gold, wherein was the golden pot that had what? Manna. Because manna was what was supplied without their labor. Are you following me? It was what God supplied without their labor. So God kept it as a remembrance that when a man accesses that place, he can begin to touch things he didn't labor for. That's why the devil doesn't want you to pray, because you break into things you did not labor for, things you did not. That's what grace does. I'm not downplaying labor, but I'm talking about that graciousness of God to begin to lavish on you even what you don't have capacity for. Now they don't call it grace until they discover that what you are producing you don't have ability to produce. When you see scarcity everywhere and the man is building houses, you have no other thing to say than to say this is what? Grace. Because what is coming doesn't match up with his ability and his strength. So manna was a symbol of men receiving the things that they didn't labor for, the things that energy of the flesh couldn't bring, because they were crying. It was pouring down. They didn't need to cook it. Are you praying at all? They didn't need to put it on fire. They could eat it as it was coming. Because there was a lot of confusion. Did God really call Aaron? God said, I will settle this matter now. I will show you who I called. Because Bible said, my servant whom I uphold. When God calls a man, he backs him with grace. He backs him with help. So he now said, I will show you that I called Aaron. Now everybody put your rod. Then by the morning, that is in less than 24 hours, there was no moisture, there was no sun, there was no water. The rod began to bud. Hear me. It doesn't matter the economy of this country. When God decides to give you grace, there are things that are not supposed to bear fruit now, they begin to bear fruit. There are things that are not, are you hearing me at all? It was not supposed to be fruitful, but suddenly it bore fruit. I know what surprised me. He said he brought out almonds. That is, God in grace shortens your time. Because if normally it is planted, it should take some months. In 24 hours. Now all these things he has done, he now decided that over it, the what? The cherubims of what? Of glory. The way they did it, one cherubim is here, that's an angel. Another angel is here. Then look at it, foreshadowing the what? So, brethren, you see all these things I said that you liked, this is where it comes from. It's called where? Mercy seat. The mercy seat of which Paul said this thing, we cannot speak about it now. You say you don't have capacity to bear it. But thank God for progressive revelation. We understand the mercy seat very well. Because by the time you come to Hebrews chapter 4, you begin to understand that that mercy seat is a throne. Somebody hearing me at all? Where they call the mercy seat is a what? is a throne. Because God spoke to Moses. He said, I will talk to you from the mercy seat. And I need you to understand this, that everything God does to a man is over the mercy seat. Everything God does to a man is out of grace. Nobody truly in the sense of, qualify it for it. There is a matter of, although there are things we can teach about growing in grace and growing in mercy, but you see, mercy you cannot qualify for it, especially when it comes to your salvation. If God wants to deal with you, he allows. Why is he doing that? Because mercy is for exemption. Mercy is for him to overlook. Because the truth about it is that if we scrutinize our lives, there must be something wrong. If it's not with you, it's with your father that where you came from. If there's something wrong with you, but when mercy comes, God does what? He keeps a blind eye. I don't know how to explain that to you. He just puts a blind eye as if it's not there. Satan is angry, but God can. He says he shows mercy to whom he wants to show mercy. It is his sovereignty, it's his love, it's his generosity. You can't help it. So the mercy seat is where God relates with man. And if man must enjoy what God has, that man must come to where? So Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 14. Quickly now. Hebrews 4:14. I want to show you Jesus. And show you how Jesus survived as a man like you and I. The Bible said that we have a high priest who has gone to where? To heaven. You know what he's saying to us first? Jesus overcame. Jesus conquered as a man. And for him, what is your journey? Is it not to go to heaven? Jesus went to heaven. He finished. He conquered. There was nothing missing. Are you hearing me at all? He conquered sin. He conquered sickness. He conquered death. Jesus is where? In heaven. As a prototype that you can have this body and survive the troubles of the earth and still make heaven. Are you following me now? He says, since we have this high priest, but the matter is, what made Jesus to survive? Someone say prayer. Jesus said, of myself, I can do how many things? Nothing. If you study the Bible, Jesus prayed more than he did miracles. Jesus prayed more than he did teaching. There was something he understood about coming to the throne of grace. Early in the morning, before people wake up, he has gone to the throne. He said, today, as I'm going out, I don't know the Jezebel I'll meet on the way. Father, help me. You know I cannot fail. You know I cannot commit fornication. You know it's not possible. Give me grace. Give me grace. Give me grace. Father, it's possible that I'll raise the dead and pride will come. Give me grace not to be proud. Father, he will cry. They wanted to kill him before the time. They wanted to kill Jesus before. Do you know, when I read such scriptures, I now understand that no matter the threat of death, you can pray your way out of death. It is surrounding you like it's sufficient. So when the man cries to God, even though you are crying a cry of, I want to marry, what does he give you? Grace. You cry, I want to be healed. What does he give you? Grace. You know why? Where you came to, because prayer is a coming to God. Did you hear what I said? Every time you say you are praying, what you did, you entered a journey to go to who? To God. I want you to understand what I'm saying. He that cometh to God must believe that God exists and is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. So prayer is a coming. You may be sitting here, but what are you doing? You are joining into God. And where God is called the throne of grace.